What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we are jumping in with more Destiny content. Surprise! It's time to do the Eververse stuff for the season. Of course, we don't typically just go through the entirety of everything that's new in the Eververse store, but this video is focused more on which items are available for Bright Dust and Silver during the season, so that if you don't want to spend Silver, you can hold out until they come up for Bright Dust. Of course, we don't know the actual schedule of when all of the items will be sold, but if it has a Bright Dust cost, that means that at some point in the next couple of months, it will be available for that currency. We will take a look at some additional things, however, for Renegades. Bungie have added quite a lot of cosmetic items, but not all of them are available for Bright Dust, which is not necessarily surprising. Additionally, other things like the Taken armor set from last season look like they will be sold for Bright Dust this time around, so there are some additional mentions in there as well. If you enjoyed the video, say something lawless in the comment section for the algorithm. Not too lawless though, come on. Otherwise, let's get into it. And so starting out with the armor that we mentioned, there are new sets for this season which are silver only. That pretty much applies to everything that's brand new. However, Bungie are introducing the Mass Effect themed armor sets for Bright Dust, so I think some is available this week. They tend to be sold a piece at a time in the store on a weekly basis. The other component is that we will be getting the Taken armor set for Bright Dust one piece at a time in the store, so these will be 1200 Bright Dust per piece. And otherwise, as I mentioned, here are the new armor sets for this season, as well as exotic armor ornaments. They are all going to be silver exclusive. There are some pretty wild ones though, like this, which I think is actually for the new Warlock helmet, even though it says Weaver's Corona. I'm guessing that was perhaps a development name or an old name for that exotic. But otherwise, we will get some returning from last season, like the Frosted Retinue, that's for the Mask of Filthy. These will be 1500 Bright Dust each. There's also Regalia for the Melas Panoplia. Benevolent Scales, which is for the Ionia, as well as the Woodweaver ornament, Explosive Reaction Brigadine for the Blastwave Striders, and Kelvin Below, which is for Rhymecoat Raiment. Getting on to the weapons though, in terms of brand new stuff, we have the Nerium Oleander, which is for the Osteo Striga. This is a pretty wild ornament. It's going to sell for 700 silver, but it will also be up for 1250 Bright Dust on one of the weeks. So be sure to look out for that. Otherwise, Coruscant Sphere, which is for Centrifuge, Executive Aid for Darcy, the Anointed ornament for Necrochasm, as well as the new one for Graviton Lance, and Taraba will all be silver exclusive, and that applies to Heirloom as well, which is the Dungeon exotic. Otherwise, you can see the icons for ones which will be sold for Bright Dust this time. Obviously, some of them for the Dawning. Interestingly, Bungie seem to be featuring a bunch of Crimson Days items, like the Vow Bow ornament. That'll be up for 700 Bright Dust. Then there's Idol of Rabbits for 1250 Bright Dust. That's the Devil's Ruin ornament. Splintered Mirror for Wicked Implement, and Wingbeat Hymn for Choir of One. Otherwise, in terms of weapons, the only other mention is for the lightsaber components. There are firstly hilts that'll be up in the store, as well as crystals that obviously change the color of the weapon. But again, they are silver exclusive. Other items for the season though, there is the Ancient Splendor Shell Exotic Ghost. That's a new one. It's up for 2850 Bright Dust at some point. It also features as part of a silver bundle or an individual purchase, so just keep that in mind. And there's additionally the Warbeast Shell, which will be up for the same costs. Outside of that, there are a couple of things coming back from last season up for Bright Dust, like the Off-Road Shell, and the rest that you can see there in the list returning from multiple previous seasons. For exotic sparrows though, we firstly have Speed Beast, pretty cool Warbeast themed sparrow to be fair. That's going to sell for silver, but will also come up for 2,500 Bright Dust. And then we have the Wave Type Hunter exotic sparrow as well. Quite a few coming back from other seasons again here, so there's things like the XU14 from last season, and the Undefeated exotic sparrow from Crimson Days, plus the other icons there you can see on the screen. For exotic ships though, we have the Quick Dagger. That one's going to come up for 2,000 Bright Dust, although it will also sell for silver, and otherwise, things like Null Scythe returning from last season. And then there are quite a few which will be silver exclusive, but here are the icons for other returning ones from previous seasons. That brings us to the last few things. I can't see any new shaders currently listed as being sold for Bright Dust. Obviously that could potentially change, but we've seen the return of things like Loyal Scales. That's actually available this first week of the season for 300 Bright Dust. Then the same costs applied to things like Bequerrelled, Sparkle and Scatter, as well as Nothing Given. If I'm not mistaken, that is the Taken shader from the bundle last season. And then there is Spring Streets. Plus, we've got the multiplayer emote, Say What. That's a new one for this season, up for 4,250 Bright Dust, as well as 1,200 silver. Additionally, the Be Wary exotic emote will be up for 3,250 Bright Dust. And you can see the icons there for others returning from previous seasons. So that really summarizes the stuff that's new that you can actually get for Bright Dust. And as we said, plenty of exotic armor ornaments, weapon ornaments, ghost shells, and other things have been introduced, but obviously will be sold for cash, so you'll have to give me your thoughts about that. I guess in a world where there are fewer players, Bungie probably won't have much choice but to try and sell more of the new stuff, so I suppose it isn't really massively surprising. But if you've enjoyed the video and found it useful, a rating really does help me out on the channel. Be sure as well to hit subscribe if you want to keep up to date with more content, but otherwise, thanks for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day.